well.
Okay. How is everyone doing? Is everybody ready to learn about crowdfunding? So this is going to be fairly concise, fairly short, but it's going to cover some pretty good bases to get you guys started and to get the ball moving if you should decide to go in that direction as a form of raising capital for your business, for your projects. So without further ado, I'm going to hit the share screen and we are going to get started. Let us start at the beginning because the beginning is a very good place to start. So for those who don't know me, my name is Eli Johnson. I'm an artist, graphic designer, visual artist, animator, music producer, and also the host of today's event. So I have helped crowdfund several projects for my clients, generating over $40,000 in funds altogether for the graphic novelization of the award-winning screenplay for Warren Duncan's Shaka, the genre comic leaders of the free world, Spider-Man noir creator Fabrice Sapolsky's groundbreaking Noir is the New Black anthology, and much, much more. So I was asked why I'm passionate about this particular topic, and I would have to say it's really because I've seen it change lives in both careers from the firsthand experience and also from watching my friends and colleagues have similar success with bringing their dream projects into the world. I believe that any campaign, any project can be successful with the right knowledge and tools at hand, whether you're creating arts and crafts or hardware and innovative technologies. Can we get a show of hands for anyone who is interested in starting a crowdfunding campaign, maybe in the future or somewhere, closer down the road? Anybody very interested in that? Okay, Lydia, all right. So make sure you get your questions saved up. We're gonna be doing a little bit of a question and answer later. So if there's any particular pressing matter, we're gonna address all of that as we go on. Brian Eno, the super producer for legendary acts such as U2, Massive Attack, and Coldplay, and many others, made a wonderful quote that says, "Prepare slowly and execute quickly." That is going to be the foundation of your philosophy for doing crowdfunding. The most important thing you're going to do is not to launch your campaign, it is to prepare to launch your campaign. So boxers win fights before they enter the ring, and you're going to do the same thing. Crowdfunding done correctly is a legitimate business model to integrate into your company's toolbox of financial assets, initiatives, and business structures for launching new products and engaging public interests. This is a screenshot from a news article featuring a book written by Keanu Reeves. It's called Berserker, and it's being published by Boom Studios and is about to get a movie adaptation as well. And as you can see, just from this one very specific genre of Kickstarter, crowdfunding is gaining more and more popularity. And this is across several industries. On the flip side, it is not a cash grab. Campaigns are hard work and are not easy money. Any extra funds you make should go to the campaign and product in some form or another. It's for customer confidence, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. It will take up a lot of your time. If you don't have time to put in to ensure that your campaign is successful, it might not work. That's something you really have to keep in mind. Time is your friend and also your enemy. Success will be fun to brag about, but the failure will definitely weigh on you for a while. There's a 50-50 chance the campaign goes either way. You will be stressed, and in the event your campaign does not succeed, you and the guy on this bedside will share a lot of similar feelings. Just because you see everyone doing it does not mean crowdfunding is right for you. Now, if you're ready to start, please grab a paper and pencil, or iPad and Apple Pencil, because we're going to be taking a lot of notes. This is not a presentation, it's a class, and there's going to be some engagement going on. We're going to hit some bullet points and then do some written reviews after each section, and there will be 3 sections: how to prepare, how to navigate during, and if we have time, what to do after your campaign. So there are a bunch of sites you can use to crowdfund, such as Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, and a few others. Each of these actually have a bit of a reputation and public perception attached to them, which is a different topic, but let's do an exercise very quick. What do you think of when I say GoFundMe? What type of campaigns do you think of when I say the words GoFundMe? Okay, the chat is busy. Jason Medley says healthcare. Dreamteamers says people paying for health procedures. Exactly so. One perception of GoFundMe is that it is primarily used for personal goals and personal, typically, causes. So something charitable, something that you have an urgent need for. You've seen people trying to raise money for health procedures, surgeries, maybe like evictions, they're doing rent, they need help, things like that. So depending on the website that you decide to run your campaign on, you'll want to really take into consideration the reputation of that site, what it's known for, what people think of when they think of that website, because you want to cater to the audience that you're trying to pitch your product towards. So if you're looking for health and services, you might want to try GoFundMe. But if you're looking to launch a product, you might want to go more towards Kickstarter. That tends to be a little bit more of a business-oriented crowdfunder. So these are kind of things to keep in mind. First thing we're going to do is prepare. And that's going to include you creating your product, developing your concept, figuring out your visuals. Okay, Chris.
All right, so the thing that most readily came to mind is my poetry book. And so I'm thinking, okay, I have this poetry book, and each of them are very short haiku poems, and they're very concise. So at the lowest tier, there are people who, if you've ever seen these like street side poets that just kind of hang out, they'll write a poem for you in 30 seconds and they charge like $2. So that would be kind of my lowest tier. I'm using that as a ballpark. And then I was thinking for my highest tier would be like a personal poem written about that person. And something like that could be more like, depending on how long they wanted it, we could talk about that. I don't know, maybe like $50. I don't know.
Okay, so we'll say that would be a goal, campaign with a relatively smaller goal. So that could be easier to hit in general. So you could get a lot of people to do that. So maybe around your final goal would be looking at something like $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 perhaps. Because one thing when you're factoring prices is you're going to want to say, okay, if I get 10 people giving me $50, what is the final price on that, right? So like how closer towards my goal am I? So you want your goal and your tiers to always feel like they could match up. So if let's say 10,000 people gave you $5 and that brought you to, let's say $50,000 or whatever it is, you always want to factor in each tier of this. If somebody only gave you money in that tier, you should be able to hit your goal. What is your engagement like? In the wise words of Matthew McConaughey, you got to get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. So while having high numbers on social media isn't a guarantee of success, it's true that if you have 100,000 followers and only 10% of them back your project, you'll have $10,000 towards your goal. So, has everybody written everything down? Everybody's following? Awesome. All right, I got a head shake there from Lydia, so we're on the right track. We're going to go into part 3 now, all right? So let's expound on this before we move on. How do we actually vet people to approach and reach out to? All right, so let's go back to what you were saying earlier, Chris, and we're gonna use that as an example. So you're in the field, let's say, of poetry. You don't necessarily want to reach out to the most successful person right away who might be running a campaign, because they might be swamped with messages already, and you don't want to wait for them. It's the whole thing. What you're going to want to do is reach out to a peer, someone in a similar or adjacent industry to yours whose campaign is gaining some traction as well. So if you are doing poetry, let's say there's somebody who likes to do, paintings or artwork based on poetry. So you can reach out to that person, and then you guys can be like, okay, feature my poems in some of your newsletters, because I know that you like images to go with, words to go with your images, so they can start doing that. Or you can have some of their artwork in your campaign as well. So that way you guys can kind of feature each other and cross promote. That's a really good way to do it. So they have a similar interest to yours, you have a similar interest to theirs. And you want to kind of keep it, again, kind of a jury of your peers type of situation. You want like celebrity intervention, if it's possible. People who've already backed the campaign, why are they going to give you extra money to take the numbers up even more? Always make sure you get some really cool stretch goals. And this is where your imagination can go wild, because once you've met your goal, you can kind of have fun with it, because you're not in any danger. You can pretty much do what you want, include what you want, and then people will back that as well, as long as it makes sense to the campaign.
Questions in the chat.
Yes, I see we have 7 different comments here. Let's see, we got some from Jason Medley. How important is it to sell yourself in the Kickstarter campaign? Well, like we touched on a little bit earlier, people like to know who they're giving to. So if you can put yourself in the campaign as much as possible, do that. With Shaka, we didn't really have that. There wasn't a need to do that necessarily. The campaign was less focused on us and more on the historical story, because it's based on a true story. So Warren is very shy. I asked him if he would do a video so we could put it on there, but he's very camera shy, so he didn't want to do that. He ended up kind of just making a slideshow, which was okay. And we used pictures of us and stuff, and I illustrated pictures of the creative team and staff, which was also pretty fun. People like that. But you don't necessarily have to sell yourself if you don't want to. If you feel like your brand and your product is very strong, you can get away with not really putting yourself out too much. But I would definitely say at least put a photo of yourself somewhere on the page, just so people can kind of feel like they know who this is and where the money's going. But it doesn't have to be a sticking point, Jason. So you don't have to be too worried if you're a little camera shy. As long as they can get people to believe in what they're selling, that's really going to be your strongest asset. So you're going to need some of the tips and advice that I kind of dispensed here. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. Well, let me say this. There's no right way to do it, but there's a wrong way to do it. So one thing you're not going to want to do is make a bad experience for people. You're not going to want to be late with your rewards. You're not going to want to, not fulfill all of the things that you stipulated into your campaign. That would be the wrong way to do it. Urgency is one of the things that you can definitely pull for. So that is an awesome question, Ben.
Thank you.
I think I just had more of a so I just wanted to say thank you again, picking up on Ashley's comment, and I thank you again because I think that I don't necessarily have a product or anything that I'm necessarily pushing at the moment, but I do find myself in the middle between a niche that was developed after COVID, where now we have these small entrepreneurs that have they have the passion, they have the drive, they have the product, but they don't necessarily have the business backing to understand their next steps. So I'm somewhere in between, where the experience I have with small businesses and in the merchant processing space, I'm kind of going ahead and combining it with now these new age entrepreneurs. So being that middle person of not having the information readily available, to have this, now if I have a resource I can go ahead and allocate them differently and send them in the right position, I think is extremely valuable. So I just wanted to say thank you for making it extremely easy, because I think that's another position to be in, where you can dissect and find the vocabulary to explain a very complex subject. Then that also adds to it's added layers of business. So I wanted to say thank you for making it really easy to understand.
Absolutely.